Hey there, I'm Helen King, a brand new singer-songwriter playing the London indie rock music scene. Listen to my personal story on Networking Magazine podcast. From being a music lover from a young age to releasing my own debut album, Look Back No More, out now. 10 tracks of anthemic, melodic, emotive indie rock. You can get a behind-the-scenes glimpse of how it felt to launch my debut album at the iconic London venue, The Water Rats, on the 11th of February 2025. Look Back No More by Helen King's out now on all major streaming platforms.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the show. If you're into theatre, chances are you've come across his work. He's made quite a name for himself both on stage and behind the curtain. We'll be chatting about his journey, what he's been up to at the moment, and getting his thoughts on the world of theatre. Brian Belding, great to have you back on the show.
Thank you very much. It's great to be back.
I can hear you in New York. I can hear the sirens.
Exactly. I can't mute the sirens. You can tell where I
am. Well, look, I thought we could start by finding out a bit about Post White Rose, the musical, and then hear about your perspectives on some of the sort of hot topics currently being discussed in the world of theatre. I know that, we obviously have had a little chat, and I know that you've taken White Rose into schools. Tell me about that. It just sounds amazing.
Well, I'm really excited about that. So to be perfectly honest, when I first started working on the show, my ultimate dream was for it to be in schools. Like Some people dream of, Tony Awards or making lots of money or just being on Broadway or things like that. Sure, those things were, considerations. Those were steps along the way of getting it into schools. So I'm so excited. I mean, I was a high school teacher for 20 years. I just
that's
love
your background,
yeah. That's my background. And so I wanted for it to be full circle, certainly for me personally, because I just love that community of that safety of these teenagers specifically. But then obviously extension to universities. But I just was so excited for that opportunity.
How did it come around? Was it you that sort of forced it? Or was it somebody on the teaching side, on the professional side that spotted your show and said, oh, we've got to have this in the schools? I mean, how did it
a little
transpire?
Bit of both. Yeah, a little bit of, so we have not had a production in schools yet. So we've just recently legally licensed the show to be able to be done in schools. So now we're pursuing that, and they do their schedules so far in advance that we don't have a full production yet, but I've been in numerous conversations with different schools, different teachers, different drama departments. Some have been using the actual script and some scenes. Some have been using songs, and they've had, like from a drama student's point of view, where some of them are using the songs and performing them either in just workshops. Some have recorded themselves doing like self-tapes, and I've shared some of those on social media. But the idea is that's a great way to grow the popularity of the show within the demographic, specifically of students, especially the ones that are very vocal on social media, especially. That's how quickly a show like this can spread, so that students can say, oh, look, this is something new, something different, something for us.
That's really refreshing, really, because you're giving back. I love that. Have you had any feedback yet? I know being a teacher, you're probably thinking, about feedback and what it's like. Have you had any feedback from the students or from it? I know it hasn't rolled out yet as a full-blown sort of production thing, but have you had any feedback?
Yes. So I've actually done a number of meetings. Once I went into a school that was in New Jersey, and I came in and then, took the train out and went to a school and spent the day with a bunch of students, which was a great experience. They were recording a podcast, and they had told the teacher, can we do White Rose the musical as our subject? And she reached out, and because some of them had seen it in New York and then the others hadn't. And it's like, okay, I can share some footage, things that are not for public consumption, but when it gets into education, there's a lot of leeway in what I can share legally. So it's like, great. So some of the filming, I'd be like, I can't share that publicly, but I could share it when I come to a class. I've also done a number of Zooms with classes. So I've had teachers, someone in Texas, someone in Connecticut, in their schools, and they've done a lesson, a whole unit on the White Rose in general, and then done multimedia. So some of them have read either a book or excerpts of the book. They've done educational components about learning about the real history. And then they've had other means, and reading a book of poetry. They've studied some of the writings of the actual members, and then they used my show as something, which is great because it's also fictionalized. So they can analyze and study it, do a little bit of media literacy in there. Like, great. Okay. So when is it okay to fictionalize something as long as it is, not passed off as a documentary?
Exactly. And what about your hope for this? I mean, obviously your hope is that what you've written, what you've created is going to somehow influence a younger generation. Are you taking the angle of just solely educating them, or are they looking at you and thinking, I want to do what Brian does?
What I love about my conversations that I've had with students in each of the Zooms, and then when I went in person, was that I have students asking me questions. Sometimes the teachers will have them prepare these questions. Other times it's spontaneous, or a hybrid of the two. Like they'll have prepared questions and some that come up with them. And some of them are asking about the history. Some of them are asking about the real white rose and things like that. And then others are performers who are asking about the performing angle. And then you have people who are looking at it maybe from the creative point of view, like I would like to write something, or I'd like to create something myself. And so it's great that it's never been one or the other. It's always been a combination. I'll be having a conversation with some young person that was like, I was inspired by these real people and wanted to write something. And they're like, oh, tell me more about these people. And then the next person up will see like, well, I love, and then maybe they'll name a historical person or something that caught their attention. What should I do? I'm like, find your own way to write something or create something or sing something or dance or something like that. So that's very exciting to be able to hit it from all angles.
Did you have a particular moment or a particular feedback, not naming any names, but with the schools that you've worked with so far, have they actually approached you and said, that this could be rolled out throughout the States? Is it just localized? Is it something that's going to be bigger than you thought it was going to be?
I feel, and it's pretty funny. It's like, I don't want to, come off as arrogant, like, oh, it's going to be huge. But to me, I've always thought that this could be something that would be nationwide and worldwide, that it's something that could translate. It's not controversial. It's not, I think it translates well, especially because it is a true story. It's an inspiring story. And I didn't write it as preachy. I didn't create something that was going to hammer people over the head with a message. It was, if anything, the message is find your own way to resist. It's not do it this way, right? Which is sometimes you see someone and you're like, whoa, I'm not the kind of person that's going to blow up bridges, or I'm not the kind of person that can do that. Like here, there's a wide range. It's just stand up and do something. And so I've had some interactions with students who have kind of shared that idea that it's like, other people need to see this in other schools. And so I'm like, ooh, I love hearing that from them instead of like, oh, that was nice, the end. So,
because that's what I thought. I thought that maybe, over here it would certainly translate. There's no stopping you from bringing it over to this side of the pond. It's a great idea to bring it into the schools. I think it's really, really innovative and creative.
Certainly I'm starting with U.S. schools, especially as an experienced teacher here. I know the language, meaning that I can position it with our standards and the curriculum things. And so when I'm reaching out to administrations and schools, they're like, oh, this sounds interesting because I'm already speaking their language.
Exactly. Like, you've got exactly.
Because sometimes they're choosing shows and the kids are coming, oh, we want to do this show. And I'm like, I don't think the administration's going to want to do that show. It's like, I get the kids want to, but here it's like, I believe in something that would hit both sides. The people that do want an educational component, or at least something that is not going to stir up, controversy, but something that's actually going to inspire.
Because there is an underlying message here, right? And it's what you said earlier. It's like stand up and do it for yourself kind of thing. And with White Rose and the educational side of things, what kind of challenges have there been? Was there initial resistance because of the topic, and maybe it was too controversial? Was it something that was just fitted in place very easily?
I have had those conversations about, whether it's controversial, and sometimes they are, I want to say, coded language, but you're talking to someone who's very sympathetic and knows that it's like, of course this isn't controversial. However, in our community, and it's like, I've worked with, with a school in Texas, and it's a Christian school, and it was like, okay, there are certain issues that
Sure,
that get
sure.
stirred up. And it was like, so I've had to assuage those fears, concerns, that idea,
Yeah.
um,
Brilliant.
that
So,
it isn't controversial for a community like that. They're going to come and go, oh no, this is something
yeah,
that is good.
exactly. Okay, and so with the theatre concept, enhancing learning for students, do you see this? Do you foresee that a lot of the students you're teaching could actually be steered into theatre? Are you actually unwittingly creating a theatrical following based on your work? Is that what's, it's kind of not Pied Piper, but you're coming into it's not normal that the theatre comes to the school. It's more like the school goes to the theatre.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Again, I know this sounds, I'm going to say this a million times, a little bit of both, but that meaning that yes, and I do think there are going to be people that might be exposed to theater in a way that they wouldn't have, because they would not have proactively gone to theater. So you're like bringing it to school. But at the same time, one of the messages I feel that I'm trying to convey in telling the story is that it doesn't have to be theater. Even though the medium that I'm using to tell the story and that they would be consuming it is through theater, it could be writing, it could be artwork, it could be just using your voice and standing up. And it's like there's so many instances that this generation right now, they're seeing every day of ways to stand up, ways to fight that don't involve violence. And
absolutely.
And it's presenting all of these opportunities. So yes, in some ways, I think I know I was exposed to theater simply because my parents enjoyed theater. So as a kid, I was like, I was brought to theater. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. So many people didn't have that experience. I taught for 10 of the years. I taught at a school where it was underprivileged students who none of them had been to theater, live theater. And I was able to take them to see Hamilton in part of the, in the national tour, they had a program where you could bring the EduHam program. And
that can be life-changing for some of these children, right?
It was. There are a number of them that are either in theater or at least are, I'd say, theater fans. So they're consuming that. And to me, that is such a great, because to me, theater has the possibility to change minds, change hearts, and therefore change lives.
Absolutely. Well, look, I wanted to, there are a couple of debate style questions I've got for you, some across social media and others I just sort of thought I'd ask you, because I think it's important, with AI coming in and with impacting writers, creativity being stifled because of technology, all of these sort of controversial things. I thought you're the guy that I'd love to ask. So here are some questions I'm going to fire at you. So, do you think directors have free rein to reinterpret classic plays, or should they stick closely to the original script?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
She's an emerging talent in the modelling world who makes no secret of also balancing her time with music and digital media, working with iconic brands such as Yves Saint Laurent, Revolution Makeup and Shane, to name a few. Maria Valentina shares her professional and personal journey with us. Maria's magazine editorial is available on our website in glossy print and in a Catwalk Diaries digital magazine. Visit networkingmagazine.co.uk or check out our bio for details.
Again, there's both sides. I'd love to see a revival of a show that I didn't have an opportunity to see, and it was done in the original, and that's great.
Yeah.
But I also want to see a new take. I want to see someone's creative interpretation of something. It's the same thing as like watching a Shakespeare play. I'd love to see it done in true original Shakespearean fashion. And then I want to see the same thing interpreted. So I do think there's plenty of room for both. I don't think it's an either or.
Yeah. Because I asked that question particularly because I recently went to see The Mousetrap. Love The Mousetrap. One of my favorites. But it hasn't changed. I remember it exactly as I watched it as a child. And here I am, in my 50s. and I'm watching it again, and I'm thinking they haven't moved from that sort of integrity. All these things have taken place with technology and everything. You're absolutely correct. There is a room for an interpretation, and I guess on some level I was sort of waiting for some sort of change or interpretation. There wasn't in that case, but I think you're right with most
that show
productions.
has been running regularly, right? It didn't.
Yeah,
like, it's
absolutely.
Still going. I think
It's
that's
still
something
going.
that happens. I know we've had this debate on Broadway when a long-running show closes, and people are so upset. But the problem is when a show is continuing to run, it's not allowed to change. The fans won't allow it. The fans are like, no, I'm paying all this money to keep the show going so I can see the same thing. I want to come to New York and see, Wicked or The Lion King or now Hamilton or things that they're not going to change. The only way they change is closing. And then now you have a revival. And then that gets to your initial question that, oh, okay, so someone else can now interpret that. Like we had Phantom of the Opera close and people are like, oh, why is it closing? And now we've got Masquerade. It's a different take on it. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, amazing. Well, okay, and what about immersive theatre? Does it enhance the audience experience, or is it just a trendy gimmick, you think? Immersive theatre is popular, very popular in London, right?
Yes. So I love immersive theatre. It's challenging. It's very difficult to make it practical, certainly financially viable, because in order for it to be immersive, you can't have the size audience you have in a traditional theater space. One of my favorite theater experiences was in New York, off Broadway, a production of Sweeney Todd that was done off Broadway by the Barrow Street Theater Group, and it was they turned it into a pie shop. And so you're sitting in the pie shop where they actually before the show they serve up meat pies. They're like, I'm not sure what's in this, but and it was such an experience. I have vivid memories of my daughter sitting there, and there's Sweeney Todd with his razor to her throat. And you're like, whoa. And then, it's like my wife is, laughing as he's going around.
And she'll never forget that, right? She'll never forget that, your daughter. It's quite a memory.
It's like formative. But it can be like any tactic a director uses or producers or whoever's making the final call. It can be cheesy and it can be done as a gimmick. But I think if it's done well, it can be beautiful. Years ago, there was a production of Ragtime that was actually on Ellis Island. So something that is so centered in the immigrant experience, and it was done on Ellis Island. So like those things I think can be beautiful.
Yeah. Okay. And do you think it's more important for the theatre to challenge audiences intellectually? Because yours was challenging. I think, well, not challenging, but it kind of submerged you. It's not interactive, but it sort of drew you in to your storyline. Entertainment value. How does it work? Is it more important for theatre to challenge an audience or just let it? The reason I'm asking this question specifically is I read in the paper very recently that movie producers were having to rethink how plots were delivered to an audience because of attention spans.
Yep.
And so they have to continually they want to bring 3 opportunities for the audience to reconnect with the plot because they haven't got the attention span. With theatre, how does that work? Are you finding, or do you think maybe in the future you're going to have to do the same thing?
So I wrote the book. I wrote the lyrics, but when it came to New York City and it was post-pandemic, the only way to get this show up was producing the show. So I was the producer, which meant I was the push and pull when it comes to making decisions like that. You've got creative, and then you've got the financial, right? Because getting butts in the seats and selling tickets and things like that is very much a producer's job. And there is always going to be that push and pull of entertainment and what draws people there. Why did they, why not only do they come in the first place, but why do they come back? Why do they share it with other people? And word of mouth is just huge in theater, way more important than reviews, in these days.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't think they can be separated out, that either it's entertaining or it's impactful. The best shows are both. And there's nothing wrong with a show that is pure entertainment. We all need that, right? We all need a moment where it's like, go and turn off your brain and just feel joy. There's
Absolutely.
dance heavy shows or just ones that fill you with joy, and there's just nothing. You walk out of the show just smiling, happy. Okay, great. What's for dinner? And you're not like dwelling on it. And then yet there's others that are like gut wrenching. You're in tears, and it's powerful. And then it's like, ugh. So it would be ideal to be able to find a way. That's why I've always said, "Come From Away" is one of my favorite shows because it's entertaining and it's in many ways it's light, while it's also extremely heavy. It's it's like, how can you talk
It's
about
both.
Yeah, exactly? And so I use that as a guiding, as kind of bit of a North Star for White Rose, and it's like incredibly heavy subject matter. But when people are in a major historical moment or a life-changing moment, they don't know it. They just live their life.
Absolutely.
We all live our life. We you look around us. Are we in a moment that will be turned into a show? It's like, no,
That's right.
We don't know it because we're living our
know.
lives. We're loving. We're
know.
falling in and out of love, and we're meeting new people. We're enjoying ourselves. We're having depressive episodes. We're having it's like all of the things that happen with normal people happen in a show.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You did touch on one subject there, bums on seats, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's an interesting topic. And you said you had to wear two heads, right? There's the business side of you, the acumen that drives your show and allows you to have, bums on seats. Now, it's interesting because the theatre's booming in Britain again. And, there are a lot of bums on seats. But for a while, there was talk about how to get people back into the theatre. It was a difficult task. It was hard enough to get people back into the real world, let alone the theatre.
Right.
After COVID, post-COVID. Do you foresee bums on seats? Forgive the expression, but in the future, do you think it's going to be more challenging to do that? Because it has become more of a business, hasn't it?
So I'll answer that first for White Rose, then I'll do the bigger industry answer from my perspective. In some ways, now with a redirection of our focus, I feel like we're going to have a much better opportunity of getting bums in seats because I'm targeting schools, regional theaters, community theaters, instead of New York City or London, where you have to compete with the top Broadway shows. You have to compete with superstars from Hollywood who are now stepping into this role in this show. And so people hopping off the plane as tourists, and it's like they're going to go see those shows, or they want to, for whatever reason. So there is this straight up competition for bums in the seats. Whereas now it's less of a concern. Now it's like, oh, great. So there's a community, whether it is a school or a regional or community theater. What is it that draws people to see theater in this particular community? And then you can kind of tailor the marketing to that. You can't do that in New York or London, right? It's got to be this big blanket, like, this is our show, please come see it. It's so hard to like target it to a specific audience. And we also confronted a problem in that I think our biggest demographic, and we found this in New York, are young people. People like high school, college, and people in their 20s. And they really loved the show, were inspired by it. They came talking. I mean, just such an overwhelming majority. I also had a lot of elderly people, so there was nothing in between.
It's a mix.
But the problem is that the biggest demographic for buying tickets to theater in New York and London is over 50. That's where
they
the
have
money
the disposable income, right? They've got the disposable income,
the time, and they've got the means to buy the price tickets that we need to sell to. It's like I had tons of kids coming to our shows in New York, but I wasn't making any money off of them because, of course, I was giving them discounted tickets. I was giving them school discounts. I was giving them 2-for-1s. I was getting, I was giving teachers free tickets. It's like, because that's what I wanted. But it was like, bottom line as the producer, I'm like, I had my team going, we can't do that and then make money. It's like,
but that's so difficult, isn't it? That for, being a creative like yourself and wearing those two hats, where do you separate it? You can't have a 50-50 split between your business acumen and your kind of creativity. It's really hard. But I think what you've done is brilliant. I think what you've done is absolutely outstanding.
I think it worked to my advantage that my original goal and dream was to have it in schools, as opposed to forcing myself to have to pivot and go, okay, so we're not going to make money on this. We're not going to sell high-end tickets. And, people that complain, Broadway tickets are so expensive. And it's like, no, they're not. Right. Relatively. It's just that the press talks about the people buying tickets for $800 to this show. I'm like, well, that's the people buying the tickets. Of course, you're not going to fault someone for actually selling them a ticket at that price if they're going to buy them.
I guess in some way, you mentioned about the sort of 50-year-olds and that kind of age group. Now, I go out a lot to concerts and to theatres, and it is interesting seeing that disposable income filter its way through both. You go to a concert, and there they are, and you go to a cinema, there they are, and then the theatre too, which is they've got the power, really. It's a hard one. It's a challenging one, but I'm glad you're looking at it from the other angle, which is great.
I mean, we have sporting events too that are just so expensive. I mean, it's like I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, so there's so many professional sports teams, and so you've got the baseball, football, and hockey, and basketball, and all these things, and so they become events, and that's another issue too of the industry. It's like, okay, so they deliver an event. So people go to a basketball game and they don't just see a basketball game. You go in and look, there's excellent food here and the seats. And it was like, so you're actually getting it. That's, I think, where theater needs to kind of catch up. It's not just about the show, because we need to make sure that
it's about the whole package.
Exactly. But that's trying to fix an entire industry. And that's a little bigger than me right now.
Well, I was at the theatre actually day before yesterday. We went to see the Michael Jackson story, that the musical
MJ,
and it was MJ. It was a very interesting storyline. There was a very deeper message there, but it was interesting. One of the things I saw there were these men and women walking around with these boxes, the light boxes that say "Put your mobile phone away," and I thought to myself, it was quite interesting at that precise time. On the one hand, we need the social media to connect to a younger audience, to bring them in, because they're watching something that's, literally being advertised for you. But on the other hand, you have to protect the integrity of the actors on stage, and there's also, being put on YouTube, and people make up their minds about whether or not to come and see it. What's your thought on social media? Because if we look at entertainment value or the whole package, when we look at concerts and things, we're allowed to stream. What's going on in the theatre world? Have you noticed a kind of need for the theatre to embrace that at certain points in the play, maybe like get your cameras out now? Or should there be a blanket ban on cameras as there is today? When we say cameras, we're talking about mobile phones, right?
Right. No, it is really difficult. I mean, it's similar to the discussion and conversation about the different applications of AI, or it's
right.
It's the same thing happened with the advent of the internet, obviously social media specifically. To me, it is a valuable tool, and it's a valuable skill, like media literacy and understanding how and when to use these tools, right? And to not see them as evil,
absolutely,
but to see them as things that it's like there's a time and place, there's an appropriate use of these things. And I kind of fall back to being in a classroom, and I had students in a classroom, and having an absolute zero tolerance policy on something oftentimes backfires, because then you're not actually teaching, and therefore people are not learning about appropriate use of things. It's like telling a child what you definitely do not ever do. It's like, at a certain age, you don't put your hand on a hot stove. You need, for safety, you don't run out in traffic. Those are safety things. But things that actually do have a benefit, something that, they when they're being told, don't drink as mommy pours herself a glass of wine. It's like, they get to a point where they're smart enough to know that it's like, well, okay, there are rules and there are things that I'm not being allowed to do, and yet other people can do them, or there's a time and place. So I feel like finding the appropriate use of social media, finding that balance of let's not tear people down on social media. And it doesn't have to mean that we're not critical, but there's a time and place for that. And it's like there's a discourse that people might have about, hey, I want to discuss this show or something like that, as opposed to like, there's nothing worse than a show gets, posts their closing notice and the social media comments are like, good riddance, I hated that show, or that was so stupid and blah, blah, blah. And they're celebrating all these people losing their jobs. And, I keep looking at the creative team, and I was like, oh my God, so you're going to choose to, behind your keyboard, voice your disdain or hatred for their art that they created while all you create is a hateful comment. So there's definitely those problems, but also there are people that cannot and never will be able to afford a trip to New York, a trip to London.
Right.
And in fact, they probably won't even be able to afford their theater in at least at a large scale. how did they get exposed to theater? And I do seeing, obviously Pro Shots, it's great. It's like you've got the Hamilton, you've got Come From Away,
Sure.
you've got Shrek the Musical. These are the very professionally filmed Newsies.
Yeah.
But then you've got that issue of bootlegs. Yes,
this is the problem.
Unethical, immoral, illegal, all of those things. But this is the same conversation.
It has impacted the cinema, the cinema and the way people view movies and stream movies. It has all kind of mingled together, kind of thing. And now you've got, you can stream a new movie on Netflix, for example. Not saying that it's a good thing or a bad thing, but what I'm saying, it's interesting how you can have this big movie night and all the family sit round or whatever, and it's replacing the actual movement to the cinema, if you like. And I wonder, I was having this debate with someone else, an actor, and I asked the actor, look, in the future, do you think that just like movies have moved to, say, a streaming platform, will the theatre move to a streaming platform too? It's an interesting one.
And so personally, I know that will not happen. Right. Because there will always be live theater, and there will always be a need for live theater. There has always been live theater, from people telling stories over a campfire, for 10,000 years ago. That's how humans relay things, and in a very personal way. So there will always be theater. I hope it doesn't get dwarfed by streaming things, and it would be nice that there's options. But similar to music sharing, that happens, Napster and things like that, it's like, it's going to destroy the music industry. Well, that didn't play out.
No,
in fact,
it didn't happen.
That became a way for people to find artists and different art forms and genres that they would not have, because things were dominated. Radio station airplay was dominated by record labels and money and things like that. So it had its problems, and yes, it was sharing people's intellectual property. And so as a creator, I'm like, ooh, I see the problems. But if it can be done ethically and responsibly, I believe the use of streaming shows can be a great entree into live theater. And it will not replace live theater, because as much as I can enjoy watching, the pro shot,
you need
of
that
the
human
show,
connection.
It makes me, and I know I may be different from other people, but it also makes me want to see the show live.
Yes,
because that is a communal experience, sitting in a theater with other human beings.
And I can see that. I mean, let's put, there was 1,700 bums on seats for the musical I went to, and I thought, wow, full house. This is because people, and it's the art. It's a story. Right? There's no Michael Jackson. It's a story, and I'm thinking, this is amazing that people want to be immersed into the theatre, not stream it somewhere, but immersed into that connection. Let's move on to standing ovations. I guess you, for one, would love to see that at the end of every show. Is it important? Has it lost its value? Is it still part and parcel of what you do?
I wish I wasn't going to answer every question the same way, but a little bit of both.
Right.
So personally, I have sat in a theater of a show that I was not inspired by, and I did not think was particularly great. And people are standing up at the end, giving a standing ovation. And I never felt this urge to be like, well, I'm not going to stand up, because I look at that and I'm like, those artists, those actors, even if it's that one dancer over there that committed to everything, or that ensemble member just with that beaming smile when they're, and stuff, I'll stand up for them. What about the lighting that was done, the staging? What about the fact that these people created something and got it on stage, and I sat here and experienced that together? I can stand up for that. I honestly do not think that it waters down the standing ovation. Yes, there are times where I've seen, like, I'm not a fan of entrance applause for a celebrity. It's like, great, okay, you already knew this person. It almost makes it seem like a surprise. Like,
well,
it can
dwarf everybody else, right? Just having a celebrity.
And you could take you completely out of the play. So it's like, okay, it's like, oh my gosh, look, and whoever it is, like, but you bought your ticket to see that person. Why are you making it seem like a surprise? So that's a personal thing that it's kind of in a similar vein. But a standing ovation, to me, I don't know why this person is standing next to me. and they don't know why I'm standing next to them. Maybe I was inspired, and maybe I just am applauding the performers or the writer, things like that. It's like, great. I don't see a downside to it. Now, on the flip side of, I went to many of the shows in New York, especially because I was the producer. So I'm talking to audience members or trying to get bums in the seats. And there were many shows where people didn't stand, and there's no question standing ovations. It's very much, if people in the front section stand, boom, everyone stands. It's pretty funny. It was like, okay,
right.
got it. Okay. It's like and sometimes it's like, well, they want to see bows and the person in front of them standing, so they stand up. So it's like, okay, you're not actually doing a standing ovation. It's just like, oh, I guess that's what we're doing. But at the same time, I've talked to people walking out of my show who didn't stand and it wasn't like this powerful, like, oh my God, yay, and yelling and screaming. And they walk out and they're like wiping tears away. I'm like, oh my God, as a writer, I'm like, I would 10 times rather have that kind of connection of someone overwhelmed by something than jumping to their feet to do a performative applause. It's like, so I mean, I understand the point of standing ovations, but sometimes because they're so common now, and it's almost a knee jerk, that it's like, it does water it down, but it's just another way for people to show their appreciation. And I don't see it a make or break, because I've had people who are like, oh, there was another standing ovation at the show. I'm like, okay, that's just, some people think that's what you do at the end of shows.
It's become a norm, really. Right. What about star casting? You touched on that. Big star comes into play, and then all of a sudden, maybe the rest of the show's dwarfed, or all the efforts of other people who worked just as hard have been dwarfed. So, I mean, we see more and more of these big stars coming into the theatre. It's quite normal here in London. You'd get an announcement, so-and-so's now the lead or whatever. And that's another reason to go back into the theatre, maybe perhaps to see the same show again, but because you follow the celebrity. Is that something that's now more common in where you are, your side of the pond?
Absolutely. Especially post-COVID, because many of the shows post-COVID that have recouped, or at least come close, they've made money, even if they hadn't completely recouped, have been star driven. And a lot of times it is. And it's funny because in my mind, and we talk about it in my family all the time, like we think of these Broadway stars as stars, but they're like, oh, that's right. To the rest of the world, it's got to be a Hollywood star, or, someone who's known for something else. And these days it can even be like a social media influencer thing. I just want to make sure to distinguish between stunt casting and star casting in my mind, because to me, stunt casting implies that this isn't the right person for that role. And the sole purpose of this casting is to get either bums in the seats or press, which obviously the reason you get press is so that you get bums in the seats. But sometimes the press is leading into, say, a national tour. So you might have a replacement that goes into a show that's kind of near the end of their run, or they're actually announced they're closing. They're trying to, instead of end on a whimper, they're going to try to go, we'll bring in this big star. They'll be in the show for 3 weeks. So it's not even a long run. But of course, that means you could charge really high prices for that short run, because you get to see, Hugh Jackman.
So-and-so.
It's like, but I have no problem with bringing in a Daniel Radcliffe, a Hugh Jackman, or someone like that, who are phenomenal music theater performers. They just also happen to be huge stars. So you're going to see Daniel Radcliffe on stage, and people are going to be drawn to that, but he's also delivering a phenomenal performance. And people aren't going in, they're going, oh yeah, that's cheesy stunt casting. Like, no.
But I think you can tell, can't you? You can tell when you've got real class with acting, a real connection with the audience. Like you said, not every celebrity can deliver that. It's a unique bunch of people who can. It's just it's not everyone.
And it is frustrating, especially like you said, a daughter who's an actor trying to go audition for roles, and then it gets filled by someone who's been on a TV show.
That is
usually that person is in fact a very talented, highly skilled performer. But occasionally, especially with the social media influencers, it's just someone who's never actually been on stage before. So it's like,
they just got likability. That's it.
Or they've just got to follow. And those people are going to buy tickets regardless of the skill.
Because of them.
And they'll rave about the performance, even though it was like, oh, that was not good. I mean, I've seen a couple of those performances. And I'm like, oh, okay, that was stunt casting.
What about moving on to improvisation? Gone, I lost my tongue there. Is there such a thing as too much improvisation on stage, or does it keep performances fresh, do you think? I mean, I'm a fan of that kind of verging off script a little bit and having that sort of giggle and laugh if it is a comedy, or even, that kind of reactionary thing can sort of capture the imagination of the audience. That's just my own opinion, but what do you think?
I just recently saw there's a revival off Broadway of the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee. Are you familiar with that show?
No, I'm not.
Okay,
actually,
so it's a show that was on Broadway. It was successful, and now it's done in schools and community theaters around the country. Very popular, but it's structured. It is like a spelling bee. So students so the actors are playing specific students, but within the structure of the show, they actually take volunteers from the audience, real people, and they come in and they join the spelling. And so they will call up the person, and part of it is this person comes up, they give them their name, and so they hand the name to the moderator of the spelling bee, and then they improv jokes, usually based on what they look like or what they're wearing or something like that. This person is it's like it's an improv show, and then when they get called up to spell a word, they give them a silly word. Sometimes it might have something to do with what they look like. It's like, oh, it's a guy with a big beard, and they'll say spell Paul Bunyan or something. And then they'll riff back and forth, and it's so clever.
That's
hilarious. If you want to go back to the show again. So I love that aspect. To me, it's similar to the last one about bringing in a star so that people come back to the show again. Because I want to see this cast. Oh, I want to see this cast. Same thing. If the show is different each night, even if it's just a subtle difference, it's like, I want to see that. I want to go back to something creative and interesting. It again, like all the other things that could be seen as gimmicks, if it's done the right way, it's part of the art form. If it's done the wrong way, it's a cheesy gimmick. So there's always that fine line. It's like, if you're structuring an improv, does it seem forced? Is this like, here's the moment where they riff?
Absolutely.
The Monty Python, there's a scene where
improv scene
where it's like the Knights Who Say Knee, and they're going back and forth, and it's hysterical. Like every night it's different. When it was running in New York, I happened to go on Halloween one night, and they literally did, like, he's supposed to repeat what they say, literally did the entire Thriller poem, and they did the whole dance, and it was hysterical. The entire audience is just rolling. And then when it's done, they go back to the script, and everything's set. So it's like, sometimes if it's structured, it's the appropriate kind of show. I think that's another fun thing that could fall into gimmick.
I recently went to the theatre to see The Play That Goes Wrong, and it had me in hysterics. I absolutely loved it. In fact, because it was all kind of improv and nothing was the same, I actually had to go back and see it again. So it's actually what you're saying is true. It's not the same. It's within the same structure, but it's giving something else to the audience.
Absolutely.
So really good.
I like to joke that I had my Broadway debut in The Play That Goes Wrong. So the first time we saw it in New York, the pre-show, they asked me to come up on stage to help them with something. Wow. And it's like, and I already knew what the show was about. And so my daughter's just laughing. So I'm standing on stage, helping the stagehands like hold up a piece of the scenery while they're doing things. And then of course they're like, oh, can you hand me that toolbox? And I can't lift it, and I can't. And of course, the small petite, stagehand girl comes and picks it up easily. I was like, I knew. I was like, okay, I'll play along, but it's kind of funny. And, and then the show starts, and they're like, quick, go! It was like it was very funny. But I was like, yep, I was up on stage.
It's genius, right? Yeah. It's the way it's been done is absolutely genius. Okay, let's move on. Not move on, but just a bit deeper on the social media coverage. Do you I saw White Rose. You've got a playlist on Spotify, which is very good. I saw you've covered every aspect. I think you've got your social media set up. You've got Spotify set up. It's all working hand in hand. And I have to ask, does that sort of engage? I mean, are you just going through the motions with that? Do you actually find that it does work, all these various elements together like a car engine?
It's tricky right now. When we have a clear objective, and that is selling tickets, then I've got a team like in New York, and then in London over two different teams, but social media with marketing, advertising, and all of that. And we all would discuss it and we'd come up with different posts and, what do we want to do? We'll show some backstage interviews. We'll do a cast takeover, or, it's like all of that strategy, because the goal is come to the show, or when we release the cast album, download our album. It's like, okay,
sure.
Right now we don't have an action item. We don't have something that we're driving them to do. So everything that I'm posting is just kind of like to keep
it
White
alive.
Rose in the presence of mind that it exists. So it's difficult because, and also it's just me. Because we don't have a team. There's no one to sustain. It's like when we have a show, then we hire someone that's part of the budget. But right now it's like, hey, it's me. You. Like I'm already prepping for the next couple of days because it's the anniversary of the arrest and executions. So it's like, okay, so I'll do those kind of posts. But since there's nothing actively going on, we're really trying to figure out not only what to post to be appropriate, but what's our objective? Why are we posting?
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to have the objective of driving something. If there's nothing at this particular time, it's difficult. You've got to keep going. I can feel that because I'm a one-man band as well, Brian. So
and you don't. And every time I start something, it's like, it's worse if you start it and you don't finish it. So it's like I don't want to be like, okay, we're going to try to do this campaign or something, and then it fizzles, and it looks worse than just like, okay, let's just stay the course until a professional can come in and come up with a strategy.
Okay, let's talk about the ambience in the actual theatre itself. I've got people eating popcorn to my right, cracking drinks open to my left. I know it's very much part of the theatre, that kind of thing, because you've got the break time, people standing up. What do you think about that? Is it part of the theatre? What a mess. I got to tell you, after the theatre, I look down and there's just a mess of it. It looks like a party. Is it necessary? Should it be just confined to an area? Should it be allowed in the theatre hall itself?
To me, I think it's a similar answer to the phones. So it's time and place. It's whether it's appropriate or not. When I go into The Lion King, what's the problem with having popcorn and a drink? It's like, okay, great. Sure. But if I'm going in to see, I don't like whatever, something very serious, intense, and then some of it is like, okay, well, if the show isn't holding your attention enough that you're sitting there going like, okay, I need a snack and I do this, it's like, okay. Because then every once in a while I think like, I might be judgy and looking at that person over there with a candy bar, and I'm like, maybe they're diabetic and they got a sugar low. It's like that's where I try to think positively, or it's like, I'm thirsty. There's times that I was like, so there's nothing wrong with having a drink. I'll always have a bottle of water. And it's just how distracting that is to me comes with, why are you there? Like I've been to shows before where you look at them like, that person has no interest in being here. So why are you even in the theater? So it's
because they love their burger. They love their burger, fries, and Coke,
but
or whatever brand.
Less about that, and it's more about like, if this is a show and that person is distracting me, and this has been definitely a problem, and I think it's also post-COVID. It's like people forgot how to behave in public spaces. It was very strange.
I think that's right. I found it quite distracting actually when I was there. I'm not saying it's a bad thing or a good thing, but it was quite distracting at particular parts of the the serious aspects, the more serious aspects of what the message really.
Absolutely.
Well, listen, I know you have to run off because I know that you've got a family member who's auditioning. So, listen, Brian, it's been an absolute pleasure catching up with you again. And I hope to see you again at some point when you've got your next project. You better, send me a text. I'd love to hear it. A big thank you as well to all our listeners. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. That's what it's all about to our channel. Until next time, bye for now. Cypher Issue 2 is out now. In this edition, we feature singer-songwriter Kelsey Watts, who performed on The Voice. She's just released her new single, Fit In. We also interview Helen King, a talented indie singer-songwriter who's gaining international attention. Actor and producer Jonathan Stoddard shares his personal and professional journey with us, and we also talk to martial artist James Sang Lee, who's worked as an actor, stuntman, and fight choreographer in movies like Lethal Weapon 4 and Plane, starring Gerard Butler. You can buy Cypher in print or read it online at our website, networkingmagazine.co.uk. Check the bio for details.